Hello, everyone. I'm Emery Bolchi, and for my social problems documentary, I chose to watch The Working Poor, The Price of the American Dream. This video documentary was about an hour long, and it was really hard to watch, not because it was an hour long, but because it was just very, it was from a different perspective in a way that I've never heard it before. They touch on the lives of three different people and the situation that they are in. The key takeaways I found to be the most significant are that of the 9 million jobs America has created, at least half of those are underpaid. 1 in every 2 workers are pushed into poverty, and the middle class is being replaced by the working poor. This is affecting 1 in 3 families in the United States. The richest country in the world, the United States, more than 1 million children are homeless, and within 15 years, 5 million jobs have been destroyed. Primary social problem is how hard it is to be poor in America. The other social concerns that are made worse by this are the issues of homelessness, unemployment, and unsafe living conditions, and those are just to name a few. The social institutions that are most impacted by this social problem discussed are economics and family. The reason it's economics is because these people are trying to work or they are working, so that it affects the economy, and they're working to support their family, so it also affects their families. At the beginning of the documentary, the first lady they interview, I guess, is Germania. She was living in a hotel so that her children, and their grandma weren't homeless until she could afford an apartment. She was working 2 jobs, I believe they said, and she only got to see her children for 4 hours a day due to her working so many hours at her job. And she only got 2 hours of sleep each night before she had to go to her next shift. So she's a very busy mom. The actual outcome, so at the beginning, after like towards the end of her interview, she said that in 6 months she wants to have worked her way up to the top, find a place for her family to live so they can be comfortable. And in actuality, after 6 months, she hotel hopped. So you could stay at a hotel for, I think they said about a month before they kind of just kick you out because you've been there for a long time. So she hotel hopped for 6 months before finding aid to be able to help her get an apartment. And then after that, it looked like she was doing quite well, actually. But they didn't really talk about how many jobs she still had to work to keep the apartment. So I guess I don't know about that part. The next guy they interviewed was Joe, and he moved to this different town to start fresh. So he, his wife, and their children, they couldn't afford a place, so they were staying in a tent in a church parking lot until they could afford one. He was trying to find a job at construction, which did not sound like it was going very successfully, and she was working as a cashier. They ended up finding a spot at the shelter, and the stay period for the shelter was 6 months. And after that 6 months, they still couldn't afford a place, so they ended up going back to the tent park. I think that's what it's called, I'm not for sure. The third guy is Scott, and the company he's been working at for, I think he said 13 years, and his grandma worked there. He worked there for a really long time because she was like, the benefits are great, this job is amazing. He worked there for that long, and the company ended up deciding that they are not making enough money. I think their profit margins, he said, was in the 20%, which is not bad at all. But they decided that that was not enough, so they were cutting costs, causing mass layoffs of loyal employees, and Scott was one of them. And a lady that worked at Scott's company that also got laid off said that it was really embarrassing, actually, because the CEO or the higher up would come and get her, walk her through all the offices with everybody looking at her because they know what's going on, just to hand her a piece of paper and say, this is when your last day is. So on top of losing your job, you now also have to deal with this embarrassment for something that you didn't even do. Being judged by everybody else when their days are just to come too. The public responses to this problem in the documentary are that churches are letting people camp out on their parking lots, in their parking lots, which I think is a really sweet thing to do for people that can't afford a place to stay. Financial aid services, family aid services, things like that. Shelters, allowing people to stay there for 6 months to try and get back on their feet. And union representatives, in Scott's case, I think he said they negotiated with the company to give him 70% of 6 months' wage, I think it was. So at least the union reps were looking out for him. And after listening to this story of all these people from the documentary who have endured great hardship, not just themselves, but it affected their family as well, the ones that were asked if they are still proud to be an American, they replied with yes. Although Joe couldn't come up with one reason as to why he should still be proud, other than he supposes it's in his blood. So the question I'm going to leave you all with is, after enduring some of the things that they have, would you still be proud to call yourself an American? Thank you for listening to my video.